Hello, everyone. All right, I think we're going to get started early here. I know I said 8, but I know we got some people on here, so I figured might as well get going. So if you could, as always, give me a little thumbs up if all the audio works and you can see me and everything. Should be interesting. And I'm going to check the audio here on my phone. Cool. All right, I think we are good. Well, welcome all you people who are early here. So what we're going to do is spend about the next hour going through kind of a question and answer format here. So you're welcome to ask any questions that you'd like to in the chat, and I'd be happy to answer those here for you. So I'm going to wait here. Ganesh, you said, "What's up, Kyle from California?" Hello. Hey, tell me, how is the California market going right now? I keep hearing all these stories of people leaving because of the home prices there and how crazy that market is. So I'd be interested to hear your take on what's happening with the market over there. And while we're waiting here, I'm going to queue up a PDF that I want to show here later. John, you said sip your coffee if you're being held hostage to answer our noob questions. I'm drinking tea, so no coffee here. So I'm not being held hostage. I promise. I promise. TJ said hi. Hey TJ, I'm glad you're here. Okay, let me move some stuff out of my way that is sitting here on my cluttered desk. And let's get into this. Well, for some new people here, welcome again to the live stream. I'm going to answer some questions here for about the next hour. Again, I always say that, and it turns out to be a little bit longer. But before we dive into questions, I'd love to hear in the chat, if you could, tell me what's going on. What's something new and exciting that's happening in your life that is outside of the craziness of COVID, of elections, of the mess of the housing market. What's going on in your life that's new and different that you're excited about? I'd love to be able to talk about that here with you, and we can kind of celebrate that as a community, because it's so frustrating when all we're talking about is frustration and negativity, and it kind of puts us against each other a lot. So I think it can be helpful to be able to celebrate, like, what are the positive ways that we're growing in our lives outside of the things that are happening to us externally, because those can be a little frustrating sometimes. So I'll share first, and then if you want to share something in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. So something that I've been learning, again, outside of elections and housing market craziness and all that junk, something I've been learning a lot is a type of therapy that helps you explore emotions a little bit. It's called AEDP. But I'm reading a book by, I cannot remember who, but basically they talk about the idea of how you explore your emotions, and so that's been super helpful for me. I've found that I am somebody who feels things very deeply, which I didn't think to be true before. So that's been an area where I'm growing in. So let's see here. I'm gonna make sure we're working over here, and then we'll hop into some questions. Cool. Linda, you said, Hey Kyle, I'm so jealous everyone's wearing their hoodies, waiting for the somewhat cold in Florida. Yeah, it's getting a little colder here. It's in that weird time of year where like there was snow flurries the other day, and then it gets super hot. Well, I guess it's not super hot. It gets hotter than what is needed for snow. But I love hoodie season. Sleeve season is my favorite. Andy asked, is there a way to confirm if your realtor is being honest with you when he tells you that there are strong offers and we need to put an addendum agreeing to pay 5,000 above the appraised value? Um, really, the hardest part here is it all comes down to the trust that you have with that realtor. So there isn't a way that you can necessarily see those offers, right, and actually validate that, which can be frustrating. But really, it comes down to the trust that you have with the realtor. If you feel like you're not getting some truth there, since you're asking the question, there's already probably something in your gut that you're feeling that is demonstrating to you that there might not be trust in that relationship. And if that's the case, it might be worth exploring working with another realtor if you already have that feeling, right? Because if you have this feeling now, it's not going to get better once you're under contract. And you really need to make sure that relationship is tight and you have a high level of trust with the people that you're working with before you get under contract. Because then when you add deadlines and stress on top of everything else, it's not going to get better than it is right now. Jeffrey said, I just want to say thanks for the videos. I'm closing on my house next month in PA, and I've learned a lot from your channel recently. Well, thanks so much. I'm so glad that you've watched some of the videos and they've been helpful. And it's really nice to hear that the videos are helpful, because sometimes it feels like I make these videos, I'm thinking, is this actually helpful for people? So super awesome, man. And congratulations on the home. I hope you love it. Okay, hi Kyle, finally caught you live to ask a question. How soon would newcomer to US be eligible for loan, assuming he has a credit history but no employment history? Okay, so it depends on your residency status. By newcomer to US, are you a US citizen? And go ahead and let me know, and I can jump back to this question. If you're a US citizen, then you'll probably need... And also on no employment history, is that no employment history ever, or is that just in the US? So if you could clarify those for me here in the comments, and then I'll jump back to this one, because I need a little bit more information there. Ace Ninja 1101. Hey Kyle, currently waiting for our appraisal to come back. We are buying in Maryland and wanted to know your take for how long it will take the appraisal to complete with how the market is. Great question. So an appraisal, on average, I would say is going to take around, after it's completed, I mean, a week tops. If it's taking more than a week for an appraisal to come back, then I'm going to start hounding the appraisal company or the appraiser to figure out what's going on and why this is delayed. Appraisers are a little bit at some higher capacity with what's been happening with refinances and all that. So I would give them a little bit more leeway, but if it's longer than a week, then that's when I would start saying, hey, we need to see this appraisal. You did it. We'd like to see the results. Tony Chappelle, what's good, man? Max, it's good to see you here. Is it normal for someone to have to resubmit an application and repull credit while in the process of building a new home that will finish next month? Went under contract in July 2020. Yeah, so that's normal if you're in the building process, because the building process is a lot longer than the normal home buying process. So what ended up happening is you applied in July and your credit report expired. Normally expires about every 90 days. So because of that, credit had to be repulled. Shouldn't impact your credit at all, really. Like an inquiry is only going to affect your credit score 0 to 3 points max. Okay, it's never going to change more than that. So you should be perfectly fine. The only reason they're asking for a new application is because the one you had initially expired, since it's so long ago. They just want updated information. Max, you asked, Chris, I'm not sure if you're talking to someone else or me. I'm Kyle. Do you invest in real estate given your occupation? Also, what benefits, if any, do you have in your position? So I currently don't invest. I would like to invest here soon. I just haven't started doing that yet. Also, what benefits, if any, do you have in your position? There really aren't benefits necessarily. If you're talking about like purchasing a home, there aren't benefits of being a loan officer really, other than that you know the process a lot better. There's really no financial benefit that you get, right? Like I can't originate my own loan. Somebody has to do that for me. They have to originate it for me. So there really isn't a benefit that I can think of. No, other than just knowing the process well. Can you explain addendum to the original contract? Okay, and then you said as far as an extension. So an extension, or let me back up. In your original contract, it's going to have a closing date set up. Okay, so it's going to say, hey, we're going to close on, what is today, the 5th? So we're going to close on December 5th. Okay, if you started a contract today, maybe about 30 days out in the future. So if you're getting an addendum to the contract, an addendum just means we're adding some extra language to the contract to change something or add something to it. So in that case, what you're doing is changing the closing date. So maybe it was December 5th, but we need to change it for some reason to December 10th. So the addendum would say, hey, we're moving the closing date from December 5th to December 10th. Extensions, especially now, are pretty common because the lending process is taking longer because of COVID and refinance mess. So addendums are very common. TJ said it's 53 degrees in Maryland. It's what is it here? It's 61 here. So, and a low of 45. So not too crazy yet. Alex, you said, what's the best type of loan for a multifamily owner-occupied residence with 5% down? Conventional. And the reason why is because a multifamily, even if you're doing a conventional loan and you live in it, is still going to be 15% down. Okay. When you start going up to 2 units, more than 1 unit on a conventional loan, you need to put 15% down. So FHA allows you to live in 1 unit and then rent the others, and put a minimum of 3.5% down. And you can always do FHA and then refinance into a conventional when you hit that 15% equity. Rob, you said, hey, I'm in New Jersey and my sister is looking to refinance her house, but has a few missed payments on her student loans. How'd you go about getting them removed, and do you know of any good help? Yeah, so I actually just recently did a video with Sam Parker, who's the owner of a company called My Credit Guy. So I really like them for credit help. As far as the missed payments, the difficult piece here is if they were legitimate missed payments, then they will never be removed. Okay. If they were errors, then you can dispute them and get them removed. So a creditor is never going to remove a late payment that was actually late. They're only going to remove it if you can prove that it was an error. So if it was an error, then I'd connect with somebody like My Credit Guy and get some help there, so they can help you in that dispute process. Dina, you said your videos as a reference for guiding me through the current path towards purchasing my house. Had my home and septic inspection today and everything looks good. I'm on target to be in my home before Christmas. Oh, awesome. Congratulations. So you only got like 30-ish, maybe a little more than 30 days, which is super exciting. What do you think about using business credit for the down payment on an investment property? I have not run into that scenario before. Business credit for a down payment on investment property. My only thought here, I haven't run into much with funding from a business. I'd have to look into that. I don't want to say anything on it right now and be wrong, or give you bad information. But definitely something I need to look into. If you want, feel free to shoot me an email, and then I can look that up and circle back. Tyler said, any thoughts on the chair of the Federal Reserve's news conference? I did not listen to it. I feel like I've been trying to take as much of a news break as I can to maintain some sort of sanity, and maybe I'll catch up, but I have not been staying up with it currently. Oh, you said in terms of interest rates. As far as where interest rates are right now, the Federal Reserve over the next, I believe it's 3 years, has been pretty committed to saying they're going to do everything they can to keep interest rates low. So this is an interesting thing for them to do, to basically artificially stimulate the economy by keeping interest rates lower. That could have some bigger impacts that we'll see if those pan out or not. But I do know that the Fed has been committed to keeping interest rates as low as possible. So I don't think we're going to see interest rates, have any huge spikes here within the next year or two. Oh, Andy, you said it was a friend's recommendation for the realtor, and so we feel happy. I was just curious if there was a way to find out if it's true. Yeah, there really isn't a way. There's no way for you to see like the other offers that were put in. You kind of just have to, again, it just kind of goes off of that trust thing, which can be frustrating and, in a real estate market, because you want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence. So, having that feeling that you're checking in with, I think is really good, because there's a lot of things that could happen in the real estate world, and you want to make sure that you're on top of what's going on around you. So, but if you feel happy and comfortable, then great, and I would stick with that realtor. What are the tax benefits for first-time home buyers? Okay, so this is where a lot of people, or I shouldn't say a lot of people. Sometimes people will talk about tax benefits of home buying without understanding everything that's going on. So the first thing that we have to understand is, what kind of tax deductions are you taking in the first place? Are you taking a standard deduction or an itemized deduction? So for instance, a standard deduction is the deduction the government automatically gives you depending on your filing status. So as a single person, you get standard deduction is $12,400. Let me see if I get that right. Standard deduction. It's either $12,400 or $12,200. Let's see. $12,400 for single taxpayers. $24,800 for married taxpayers. So basically, the way this works is, so me, for instance, like I file as a single person, so I automatically get a tax deduction of $12,400. Okay, so if I was doing an itemized deduction, what I would be doing, instead of taking an automatic $12,400 deduction, is I'd be itemizing all of my expenses and saying that these expenses that qualify for deductions exceed the standard deduction, so that I could get a higher tax benefit. The problem is, you most likely don't have as much qualifying tax write-offs on your income in your home purchase, because you can only write off things like interest, points, fees. You're not actually writing off a down payment. Okay, that's not a fee that you can write off. So if you're doing a standard deduction, most people aren't going to exceed the limit of the standard deduction, and you'll get more benefit by going standard deduction instead of itemized. So that's where people can kind of get them mixed up a little bit, because you can't do the standard deduction and then add, any tax benefits of owning a home. If you're doing tax benefits of owning a home, you have to remove the standard deduction and then start from the bottom, and then hope that you can have enough itemized credits or itemized deductions above the standard deduction limit. So I hope that makes sense. I have a video on this where I think I explain it a little bit more clearly than I did right there. But ultimately, there really aren't as many as people might lead you to believe, at least in my opinion. Uh, I wanted to know more about the cost per month of a $300,000 home in Cincinnati. Our lender said that it was around $1,700 a month with 3% down, which seemed off. Is this close? So, here, let's do this. Let me share my screen. Oh no, I got stuff going on in the background. All right, that should be more clear for you. You said a 300,000, 3% down. Okay, so what I would do, 3% down. Let's assume the interest rate's like, I don't know, 3.5%. So your principal and interest payment is 1306. And then on top of that is where you would add your taxes and homeowners insurance, mortgage insurance as well. And this really depends on your area. Uh, I'm not sure exactly what the taxes are for Cincinnati. Homeowners insurance looks to be maybe close, maybe a little bit low. PMI looks a little bit high here, personally. I'd take this down to like 0.6. So I'm pulling in an estimate of around 1864 just on like a really rough guess. Let's say your interest rate was closer to like a 2.875. That's going to drop you down to 1765. So that's a pretty close estimate there. It really just depends on taxes and insurance though. Mark, you said just entered escrow, had some items, $1,000 that were ordered before I got into escrow, but now they're charging me. Should I be concerned at all with my lender looking at that unfavorably? No, for $1,000, that's not too much of a big deal. I'm assuming that maybe that got put on a credit card. What I would do is just talk with your loan officer, say, hey, here's an extra $1,000. If it's coming out of your savings or your checking, no problem at all. If it's added to a credit card or an installment or something like that, then just talk with them. It shouldn't be enough that it's going to change anything because a payment on $1,000 is pretty low. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. Is it better to wait for COVID to pass before buying a home? Will homes be cheaper then? That is the golden question. If I knew the answer to that, you and me would be rich in the next couple years. So nobody really knows what it looks like based on what we've seen from historical data is that we're kind of in a bit of a housing bubble. So it's home prices are high and we expect them to get lower. When that's going to happen, nobody knows, especially because we're in such a strange time where money's getting pumped into the economy that really wouldn't have been there if COVID hadn't happened. So it's hard to say. It's hard to predict the timing of it, but we do expect home prices will become lower here soon because they're high right now. So when that will happen, no clue. But I anticipate sometime within the next year to two. Ace Ninja, you said, thank you so much for answering my question. You're welcome. I love your channel. You've taught me so much. I'm able to keep up with all the terminology and feel confident with our house finances. Awesome. Well, I'm glad it's been helpful for you. And there is so much terminology. The thing that sucks is like, I kind of wish this channel didn't have to exist. Like home buying should not be this complicated, but it is. There's just so many moving pieces, so many things going on because you have issues of title and insurance and mortgages and everything going on that it can just be frustrating and overwhelming. So I'm glad this has added a little bit of clarity to that process for you. What estimate should we plan toward closing costs? I do have a closing cost calculator. Where is that? If you search through my recent YouTube videos, it's pretty recent if I remember correctly. But what I would estimate, an average is around 2 to 5% of your purchase price in closing costs. So if you're on the lower purchase price end of the spectrum, like a $100,000 house, I would go more towards the side of 5% closing costs. If you're near like a $300,000 house, I would be more on the side of like 2 to 3% closing costs. But it really depends on your situation too, and also depends a lot on taxes because that tends to impact how much you're paying at closing. Why I said why they call Arizona 80%. I'm the only one who knows the answer to this, and I have the proof of that, so don't dodge the question. Let's see. Why did they call Arizona at 80%? I have no idea. No clue. I stay up on politics a bit, but as far as like the details of and all the intricacies of how it works and gets called, I have no clue how all that works. Mrs. MJ said, "Good day. Love your content and willingness to share knowledge. My question is regarding eliminating escrow on an FHA loan. What are the requirements and steps that I would need to take? You cannot take away escrow. You cannot eliminate escrow on an FHA loan. FHA requires you to have an escrow account. It's just part of the deal. So if you wanted to remove your escrow account, you would need to refinance into a conventional loan and then waive your escrow account." Fernando, you said, "What's up, Kyle? What if my loan officer said I was locked in at 3.25% rate? I cannot speak today, but still have yet to have it in writing, closing on the 19th of November and waiting on my appraisal." The 19th of November, like in like 14 days. So what if you are under contract, you are legally required to be sent a loan estimate that would detail your interest rate, your payments, and all the closing costs involved with the loan. So I would check on that because you need that to get going. You also need, that appraisal to be ordered. You need a lot of stuff going within the next 14-ish days to get up and running on that. So get in contact with your loan officer and see if you can get some of that documentation going. Okay, Ace Ninja. I was just promoted at my job, which moved me from an hourly employee to monthly salary employee. Should I let my mortgage lender know this change? Yes, I would let them know. It's not going to be a concern, but just something that they need to document. Most likely what they'll do is they'll send your employer a verification of employment form. It's called a Fannie Mae Form 1005. And basically what it is just something your employer fills out, and they'll say, what your pay rate is. So they'll say your monthly salary employee, and salary is way better to underwrite than hourly because hourly fluctuates and a monthly salary stays the same. So it's so much easier and nicer to underwrite. So yeah, let them know, but you won't have any issues with that. Lee asked, will lenders always use the average of the last 2 years' income to qualify you for a loan? No. And this is a really confusing answer. And I'll show you just how intricate this answer is here. So the frustrating thing in the mortgage world is there's never an easy and clear answer. There's always stuff going on. So let me see if I can pull up this chart here. Hourly income. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. So I might need to zoom in here. This is a chart showing how each loan type calculates income. Okay, so for instance, let's run through a Fannie Mae loan. So this is a conventional loan. So are the hours consistent or fluctuating? Lenders like consistency of wages earned. So to test consistency, compare the year-to-date income to the past year by taking hourly wage times average hours worked times 52, then divide by 12 for the monthly income. Is the income consistent with the last year? If yes, then use the year-to-date average. If no, use the lower of the year-to-date average and the previous year average, unless you can document a pay raise, medical leave, injury, or other leave. Okay, so the frustrating thing here is it's not always an average of 2 years. A good rule of thumb is kind of an average of 2 years, but what underwriters are looking at is your trend of income. So this document calls it consistency. You could also call it trend. So how is your income moving? Is it growing up? Is it going down? If it's going down, then they get really strict with things. If it's going up, they're not always going to use the new higher pay. Normally they'll want to average it down to be in a place where it's a little bit more consistent, because they don't want to just go off of like one small pay bump and now qualify you on that income if they don't know that you're going to consistently earn that in the future. So ultimately, it's hard to tell exactly without doing those calculations. But average of the past 2 years is a good rule of thumb to figure out kind of a rough approximate of your income that they'll use. Okay, Kyle, currently planning on renting my current home and purchasing another one. Got pre-approved already for a very low amount because the original house is counted as a debt. Is there any way to avoid that? Yeah, so you'd want to tell your loan officer that, make sure they know that you're planning on renting that out. You should be able to use a projected rent from that. And with COVID going on, most likely what the lender will want is you to actually have an executed lease agreement on that property. So I would try to see if you can get working on that if there's someone that you know that is planning on renting from you, and get that executed lease agreement, and they should be able to use 75% of that rental income to offset that debt. Lorraine, so I have to wait for the fog to clear from my glasses. If I receive a gift of equity to purchase my home and there is a time, is there a time minimum before I can resell? No. And is it possible for me to rent out my home during that time? So you don't want to rent out your home within the first year, because that gets viewed as a little bit of occupancy fraud. And that's if you have a mortgage on it. So if you have a current mortgage, wait a year until you rent that out, to kind of make sure you don't run into any of those strange fraud issues that nobody wants to run into. But you can resell whenever you'd like. BFits, you said, also, I referred your channel to a friend. Been waiting, or I'm sorry, watching since April, and your videos are the best. Can't wait for your calculator. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, and I cannot wait for that calculator either. It's a big project. I'm learning as I go, but I think it's going to be really helpful once it's out. Hi, Kyle. Just heard back from my loan officer that they will be reaching out to the closing attorney for clear to close on 11/13. What happens now? Any advice? So it sounds like you're just kind of waiting for the final review of all of your documents and everything in the loan file. So if they haven't asked you for anything, I would just sit tight. Maybe reach out to them and say, hey, is there anything you need from me to speed along the process? That's always helpful. As a loan officer, when buyers are proactive and they want to be helpful, often as loan officers and realtors, it's easy to run into a situation where we feel like we're fighting with buyers. But we have to realize, like, we're all on the same team, right? Your loan officer is not trying to make things complicated for you. So it's always really nice when somebody says, hey, what can I do to help you make this a little bit easier on you? So other than that, I would sit tight. I am going into an FHA loan on a house purchase with 3.5% down. Unfortunately, I will pay PMI and plan on refinancing in the next 3 years. Will closing costs be on the base of the new home cost? Yes. So one quick note here, and this is just semantics, is FHA, their mortgage insurance is actually MIP. It's a dumb difference. So FHA calls it a mortgage insurance premium, and conventional calls it private mortgage insurance. So PMI and MIP. But it's just a matter of semantics. But as far as closing costs, your closing costs will, it's not necessarily based on home cost. It's just the general costs of purchasing a home. And often these costs are fixed. For instance, an appraisal on average is probably going to run around $500, no matter if that's $1 million house or, well, maybe not $1 million house, whether it's a $500,000 house or a $50,000 house, an appraisal is going to be the same fixed cost. So often you're running into a lot of fixed costs. The other costs that you might see that fluctuate with the home cost are taxes or things like title insurance. Roy, you said please talk on getting a mortgage for a non-resident who does tax return in the USA. So for a non-resident, normally what you're going to have to be looking at is a foreign national loan. And foreign national loans can be a little bit difficult because what you're going to need technically is a portfolio loan. And that means a lender is not going to sell your loan. They're normally going to keep it in-house or they're going to sell it to a lender who specifically does portfolios. So they can have a higher down payment and higher rates. So you're going to have to do a little bit more shopping for that. And I don't know a ton if COVID has changed foreign national loans. I've never done one, to be honest with you. So I'm not super familiar with them because we just don't run into that situation a lot in Ohio. But just do a little bit of shopping around. You're going to be looking for most likely a foreign national loan. You said what time is it? Here it is 8:18 is the local time here. We are open to multiple towns to buy in New Jersey. Can one realtor agent cover all of our options or should we pick multiple realtors? Yeah, as long as they're within driving distance of each other, then you can use one realtor or agent for that. You'll be perfectly fine there. Will replacing windows increase the house value? It'll cost about $12,000 for 8 windows. Not even all the windows. Market price for home is around $210,000. It depends on the condition of your windows right now. If they're in need of repair, then most likely you'll see a good return from that, or at least break even on replacing those windows. But I would talk with your realtor about the condition of them and seeing how replacing them would help in your resale value. Because a realtor would know a little bit more about the value than I would. Is December usually a good time to start looking for houses, or could we wait till January if we're trying to move in by May 1st? I think both are a good option. What happens around Thanksgiving, December is things slow down a little bit because you have, holiday stuff going on. And then, in Ohio, it's snowing and nobody wants to be outside and moving and all that junk. So yeah, you absolutely can wait until January. That's a perfect time to start. You have 5 months or 4 months to look for a house by the time May 1st comes up. How long does underwriting take? A good estimate is like by the time that from the beginning of when you sign your contract under a new home to the closing table should take about 30 days on average. In this COVID world, I'd say maybe closer to 45 days. But the underwriting process can be super quick. It can take 2 weeks. It could take 4 to 5 weeks. It really just depends on the type of loan and how quick you are at sending in documents. If you want to make it go faster, the best thing to do is when your loan officer or your processor asks you for documents, give them everything and just make sure that you're sending them exactly what they asked for, right? So if they say, I can't tell you how many times this has happened, where I've said, I need 2 months of bank statements. I need all pages. I need to see all the corners. I can't have anything cut off. I need to see, I need to see everything. I need to see all pages. No missing things. No, names cut off. And people will like take a really awful screenshot on their phone, and I can't see their name or account number. And they're missing pages, and then they get frustrated with me. I'm like, come on, I told you what we needed. So send exactly what the loan officer asks for, and that's going to speed up the process a little bit more. Mitch, you asked, after initial pre-approval, do I submit an offer and get another approval for the home? So what will happen is you got pre-approved, you submitted an offer on a home, and then that your lender will get that contract. So you'll get an initial approval from an underwriter. The loan officer will send all of your documents along with the contract to an underwriter, and they'll give you initial approval. And that's basically them saying, hey, you can, we'll let you close on this loan as long as you meet the following conditions. And then you send in those conditions and you get the final clear to close. Danny said, we've been seeing a lot of buyers waiving appraisals. What would you need from a buyer to allow that huge down payment? So normally you need about 20% down. Higher is better. Also, you're going to be looking at a higher credit score. So normally 720 and above to get these appraisal waivers. And not all areas have it. A buyer doesn't just automatically qualify for it. It's based off of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's database on homes that they have, and they're using both the strength of the buyer and their financials along with the data that they have around about the surrounding market. So, and none of that's like published. Nobody has access to like what homes those are specifically that I know of. So it really just depends on the area and how comfortable the software feels with issuing an appraisal waiver. But as a standard, the best way to get those results is having a higher down payment, so 20% or more, and having a high credit score. And a low debt to income ratio helps as well. Louise, what happened when you? I cannot read today. What's happening when you go into underwriting? What should we expect from the lender? What kind of questions? We're in that point. So when you go into underwriting, the underwriter's basically making sure that all the documents are in your loan file. So they're looking at your purchase contract and appraisal, insurance, all the income documents you submitted, and they just want to make sure everything looks good and you can still get approved for that loan with all those documents. So what's most likely going to happen is they'll come back with an initial approval, and that initial approval will say you're approved for the loan as long as you meet the following conditions. And normally what they'll ask for is things like the homeowner's insurance. They'll want to see that you have that. They might need a missing page, or they might need an additional pay stub, or something along those lines. And then that will be resubmitted and you can go to the closing table. If Biden wins, will that impact in real estate losing value homes? Confusing sentence, but basically you're saying like what's going to happen with the election and how is the market going to respond? No clue. It's a toss-up, honestly. I have no even anticipations on like how the market's going to go depending on who wins or who loses. Andy, you said, is USDA backed up? My loan officer said that it would take 10 to 11 days to hear back from them. What would be the reason USDA would not approve it? Don't they only double check it? So 10 to 11 days. Wow, that's long. So your state, if you go Google USDA turn times, Florida or Ohio or wherever state you're in, that they will post what their turn times are. So it's very possible that they're up to 10 to 11 days in your state because of this dumb crazy market. And I've never seen a loan come back from USDA and have an issue. As long as your initial underwriter is good at their job, then you're not going to run into any issue because USDA is double checking it. And normally USDA doesn't deny a loan. If they come back and don't approve it, they'll say, we just need like these things. So they're not just going to blindly reject you. Max, you said I have 2 personal loans that I have the cash to pay off. Will that hurt my debt to income ratio? No, that will help your debt to income ratio because it's going to remove those debts from your monthly payment. Victor, are there lenders around who only ask for the last year of tax returns, but not 2 years? It depends on your type of income. So, and also what type of loan program you're looking at. If you're self-employed, which I'm guessing you are, is why you're only wanting to show one year of tax returns. Then, if you go with a conventional loan and have been in business for 5 years or more, then most likely you'll only have to show 1 year of tax returns. Otherwise, you'll normally need two. Now, if you're getting a conventional loan and you have like a W-2 job, then they're probably not going to ask for tax returns. Most of the time, conventional loans don't need tax returns. They can normally just go off of pay stubs and W-2s. If you are on a standard repayment plan for student loans, the lenders for FHA use 1% or the monthly payment. FHA will use 1%. If you want to use what's on your monthly payment, you'll need to go with a conventional loan or a VA loan. If I'm planning to get a home in 5 months, should I avoid switching jobs? Yes, do not switch jobs. I'm in a full-time job and hoping to move to another full-time job at higher pay. Even if it's higher pay, switching to a new job, if you switch now and then you purchase in 5 months, that's fine. But if you're going to change the job in 3 months and then you try to purchase a home after that, it just becomes a little bit more frustrating because you're going to have to document things a little bit more. As long as you're in the same line of work, then you should be okay. I personally would try to wait to do all that after you purchase if you can. But again, don't miss out on a higher paying job just to be able to purchase a home because you want to get the higher pay. Samantha, you said this is my first time buying a home and you've been really helpful on buying our first home. Awesome. Well, congratulations. If you have purchased, I can't tell if you've purchased yet or not, or if you're in the process of it, but either way, I'm glad you're here. Congratulations on where you're at. Is this a good time to send chunks to the principal or should I keep my cash flow? Really depends on kind of the overall picture of your finances and your budget. If you're tight on cash flow, then I'd say let's keep the cash flow. If you have high interest debt paid off, and you have savings, then yeah, let's go ahead and attack the mortgage debt. But if you still have high interest debt, like student loans or car loans or credit cards, let's send the money there first. And let the mortgage be one of the last things that we pay off because it most likely has a lower interest rate and it's a secured debt, meaning like you can get rid of the debt by selling that asset, where like a credit card, it's not secured. I can't go sell a credit card and get money for it because I owe money on it. It doesn't have any asset securing it. Okay, he said, hi Kyle, I've had 4 offers rejected. Oh, that's a bummer. I'm a first-time homebuyer, single parent, no cosigner with an FHA loan. Any suggestions on how I can make my offer more attractive to increase chances of approval? I have a couple videos on this that share some different ways that you can make your offer more attractive. And I actually have a video that I'm working on right now on how to beat out cash offers. There are a lot of things that you can do to make it more attractive. The first thing, the biggest thing that you can do is increase the price. Okay. When you're coming in with a loan in such a competitive market, you're going to pay the market premium for the house. I know everyone wants a discount. It just is not something that you're going to be seeing in this market without getting beaten out by other people who are willing to pay more. Okay. Another thing that you can do is lower the amount of closing costs that you're asking for because closing costs cut into the seller's money that they make, and they don't like giving up money. So if you can remove those closing costs, that'd be a great way. The other thing that you could do, and there's tons of things that you could do, but the other big thing would be writing an offer letter. So some people call this like a love letter to the seller. Basically, you're just adding some emotion, some humanity to this offer because a seller is getting this paperwork coming into them, and all they see are they just see black and white. Like it's literally black and white text, on paper, okay? And they're just looking at the raw numbers. Now, if they get 3 offers that come in and then they get yours and it has a letter on it that says, I'm a first time homebuyer, I'm a single parent, this home would be perfect for my child to be able to do X. That way we could have X. Like, appeal to the emotions of the seller. And often that actually tends to work pretty well because people feel nostalgic about their homes. They want to pass that home on, even if it's to a stranger. They want to be helpful and know that their home is being well taken care of because they have memories in there. Normally people don't, people tend to be nostalgic about the home that they live in, even if they're selling it. So an offer letter can be really powerful to be able to give to a seller, and ask your realtor for some advice on how to write that to make sure that, you're not giving away too much information that they can use as leverage in that process. Are there benefit savings between using a site to shop for mortgage lenders that compete for your business versus using a broker that does this for you? Thanks in advance. So I think both are good options to look at. Online comparison websites are not the same as a broker. Okay. They're both showing you shopped rates or a collection of rates, but they're very different lending models. The ones that you see online often are direct lenders. Okay, think like Loan Depot, Caliber, Quicken Loans. Those are direct lenders. A broker has a different relationship with lenders where they actually work for you. They don't work for a specific lender. So even though you're seeing a collection of rates with both of those, they have different operating models. So what I would do is I would get a quote from one of these online companies and then get a quote from a broker and then compare both the experience and the loan offer that you get from them. Do you need two W-2? Do you need a W-2 to get a conventional loan? I contacted a loan officer and was told that it was standard, or would it be that particular lender? And man, for some reason, I'm just having I'm tripping up on everything I'm reading. So no, you don't need a W-2. You can be a 1099 employee. You can be self-employed and run your own business. You don't have to have a W-2. Now, if you work a W-2 job, you'll need to show a W-2. But you can use, if you have 1099 income, you can use 1099. You don't have to use a W-2. Liam, you asked, how do you get soft proof of funds as a wholesaler? Honestly, I'm not too familiar with the wholesale world, so I don't know, frankly. Fernando, you said I received a loan estimate and the rate was not locked. The appraisal was ordered for the 9th of November. Oh, it's ordered for the 9th. Okay, 4 days from now. When is it too late for me to back out? You can back out anytime. You can back out now. If you want to do it, if you're going to back out, do it before the appraisal happens so you can get a refund on the appraisal. If the appraisal happens, you're most likely not going to be able to get a refund back for that money that you paid for it. Brandon, can you use 401k cash reserves when applying for a mortgage? Yes, you can, with one stipulation. You need to send the lender your terms of withdrawal from the 401k. So each 401k has a terms of withdrawal, basically saying what you're allowed to do with that money. There needs to be a clause in the terms of withdrawal that say you can use the 401k either at pulling out money or using a loan for a home purchase. So if that clause isn't in there, then you can't use it as reserves. And if it is, then you can. I have yet to see a 401k that doesn't have this clause. So you should be good. Yeah, I've never run into a 401k that has the terms of withdrawal that doesn't qualify. But there could be some out there that I just haven't encountered. But short answer, yes. Long answer, look at your terms of withdrawal. You said, hey, Kyle, recently switched jobs for a 30% pay bump. You make 125,000. I got pre-approved for 500,000. Credit is above 40%. Zero revolving debt. And 740. Okay, you said 740 in the other comment. Credit is above 740. Have zero revolving debt. No student loans. How accurate is the pre-approval? I would say it's accurate because your income is high and it doesn't look like you have much debt and you have a high credit score. Now, $500,000 on $125,000 income is pushing it. It's a little bit high in my opinion. I would personally want to have a much, much lower mortgage payment than that, but you might live in a higher cost area. Everyone's situation is a little bit different. So you should be fine if they give you a pre-approval, but personally, I would want my budget to be a little bit more conservative. Gina, you asked what is considered a decent interest rate right now. I am going to show you a little trick to answer that question. What you can do is Google CFPB rates. It's a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and they have this little tool that lets you explore interest rates. So you can put in the state that you're in. So I could put in Ohio. I could say my home price is $300,000 with 10% down on a fixed rate 30-year conventional loan. The average is or I guess the most offered is 2.875. So most lenders are offering rates at or below 2.875. So if you do that for your area, then you're going to get a solid idea of what interest rates are around you. Okay, said recently got pre-approved and received some rough estimates on what my interest rate looks like. How should I go about shopping for better rates, and does that further ding credit? So what I would do is just go around and contact different lenders. I would suggest getting a quote from one direct lender. So think like Quicken Loans, Caliber Home Loans, one credit union local to you, and then one local mortgage broker. Shop all three of those. It's going to give you a good range of what's available. And then it won't further ding your credit. So you actually have a 45-day window from the first credit pull that you can have unlimited credit pulls for your mortgage. Okay, you can get a credit pull today and then have 1,000 others in the next week, and it will not affect your credit score. Okay, so definitely shop it around. See if you can get some better rates out there. Trader Tracy said, I'm looking to buy a multifamily unit. If both units are rented and one of the units is going to be coming available, is it possible to qualify for an FHA loan as a personal residency? Absolutely. This is what people call house hacking. So you can buy a multifamily. So in this case, a duplex, looks like in your scenario. Live in one unit, rent out the others. Perfectly fine with FHA. 3.5% down. Oops, answer that question. You said, I'll try to avoid the fraud. Awesome. And you'll disagree with Box Tips comments. Yeah, somebody called me an ugly guy in here. Oh, don't worry. I won't take it personal. What is it that I drink when I'm doing my live chats? Well, and this is water. And here is some tea. I for some reason when I talk this long, my mouth gets really dry, and I don't know. I don't know if it's just being on live or if it's just talking so much. I don't know, but I feel like I have to constantly drink things, so my mouth doesn't get all gross and dry. Gina, why would anyone want to waive an appraisal? Great question. Because sometimes it's just it's easier. And here's why. Let's say you go under contract on a home, and in an ideal world, it sounds nice. Like if the appraisal came in short, let's say we were looking to buy a $300,000 house, and the appraisal comes in at 290. That sounds nice. We would think, oh great, we get a discount on the home. But that's not the end of the story, because the seller doesn't have to agree to it. The seller can still say, nope, we still want $300,000. In that instance, you're bringing an extra $10,000 to the table if they don't agree. So you have to bring that extra money. Or if the seller doesn't agree, the contract gets canceled. So an appraisal waiver is nice if you feel comfortable with the value of the home and you just want it to move forward without any hiccups. And waiving an appraisal normally saves you about $500 too. So it's a trade-off. You know, a lot of people think they want their appraisal to come in short, but when an appraisal comes in short, it is a stressful time for everybody, because the deal is in jeopardy of not closing, and everyone's already sunk money into this at this point. You know, you've probably sunk in money for your inspection, your appraisal, maybe your earnest money, and nobody really wants the deal to fall through because they were planning on this closing. So it's nice to not have the burden of a short appraisal when you're closing on a home. Dan, you said yes, to win the house you love. Yeah, I don't think I've ever talked about the name of this channel before. So the reason I named it this is because when you're looking to buy a house, it's not like you're going to the grocery store and you're picking something off the shelf. When you're buying a house, you're buying it in a market and you're competing against everyone else. And so in my mind, the way that you actually purchase a home is you're kind of winning it. You're winning the bid. Everyone's bidding for the same home, and you're trying to be the one that stands out. You're trying to win it. And I think the best way to do that is through education, is through knowing the process, through making sure you have your finances in order so that by the time you find a house you love, you can do everything you need to win that house. I also say the house you love instead of like a dream home. I kind of hate the dream home thing. It's so overused in the real estate world. Everyone talks about like I'm looking to buy my dream home, but I think a dream home is just not a effective way for us to think about things. Like it's never good in general in life to look at things as once I have this, then I'll be content. This is the destination, because it's normally a false promise that we give to ourselves. What I like to think of is, you know, is this a house that I love? Is this a house that I enjoy? It doesn't have to have the pressure of being this dream home, right? I don't need that expectation. I just want a house that I enjoy, a house that I love. It doesn't have to have, you know, this dream idea around it that can make it really claustrophobic and add these strange emotional constraints to purchasing a home. Austin, this is a great question. If I was about to get a house in which the deal that I got was for 20% equity coming into it, could that count as my down payment? So you said under contract for 80,000, but it appraised at 100,000. So the disappointing answer is no. A lender is only going to lend to you on the lower of the appraised value or the purchase price. So for instance, let's say you're getting a conventional loan that has a minimum down payment of, let's say 3%, they're going to go off the lower. So you're going to have to pay the down payment based on $80,000. You can't use that equity built in as your down payment. Unfortunately, I wish you could. What happens to debt at death? Can I pass home to a relative? As far as debt at death, that's going to be handled by the estate or the county if you don't have anything set up. But you can pass the home to a relative, either like through a will or something like that. And normally, what happens is if somebody passes away, really as long as that mortgage is getting paid, normally a lender is not going to have an issue with it. And it really just depends how it's getting handled, but for the most part, you're not going to run into issues as long as that mortgage is still being paid. It might be beneficial to refinance it into somebody else's name sometimes, but most of the time, you're not going to run into actually needing to do that. Regina, you said any advice for self-employed individuals? What's changed since COVID? Um, Self-employed on FHA loans since COVID has changed, where some lenders are actually requiring, I'm sorry, not some lenders, FHA is requiring proof that a self-employed business has future business coming in, which is frustrating. Like they want to see proof of contracts or things like that to show that you have future business that's actually operating. What you'll also need is a year-to-date profit and loss. So I would go ahead and start working on getting that documentation ready. A year-to-date profit and loss is normally going to be needed whether we're in COVID or not. But with COVID, they're looking a little bit more strictly at your year-to-date profit and loss. Year-to-date profit and loss kind of serves as like a pay stub of sorts for self-employed people. Are zero balance credit cards counted in the DTI? No, only monthly debt payments are counted in the DTI. Do I need to get money out of my savings if I want a USDA loan? No. If you want, now with a USDA loan, it's 0% down, but you do have closing costs. You can have the seller pay up to 6% of the purchase price towards your closing costs. So it could be that you won't pay anything at closing, but most likely you'll still have a little bit of closing costs that you'll need to pay for with a USDA loan. Does co-signing for a vehicle hurt my process of buying a home if I'm in the underwriting process? Yes. Oh my gosh, don't do it. Don't do it. wait until after. I would first say maybe reconsider co-signing. Co-signing is co-signing is like an evil necessity. I would personally recommend against co-signing. It tends to not have, and I shouldn't even say tends, it has zero benefit for you. Okay, I know that you're probably trying to help somebody else. Co-signing does not help you at all. It only has the potential to hurt you. Okay, but if you're going to do it, absolutely wait until after you close on a home. Otherwise, that new vehicle debt is going to drop your credit score and count against your debt to income ratio. Andrew Spoon, how's it going, man? So Drew, as a good friend of mine, what would you say as a good rule of thumb when upgrading visual? Oh, I just hit my knee. Visual parts of your home to increase value. Is it better to start with doors, windows, paneling, etc. in terms of property value? Man, that's a great question that I don't have a super great answer for. I don't know. Since I'm not on the real estate side, I don't have as much experience with what increases the property value per se. I do know you're going to get your kind of most of your benefit mainly from a kitchen. And then also landscaping is going to increase a lot of that curb appeal as well. I'm trying to think of like when I was at your house last, what would be helpful. Bathroom upgrades are also super helpful. Uh, what else? You already have a fence. Yeah, I think those should cover it. Maybe increase the value if you take down some of the Karl Marx posters would help as well. Kyle, you said just showing love to you on me. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And my comments like skipped all the way to the bottom. Okay, give me just a second here. Okay, you said, what would you recommend for someone who wants to acquire a 4-unit with an FHA 203K loan, 688 credit score with less than $20,000 salary? In short, just trying to move out of your parents' house. I think with a $20,000 salary, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to get a 203K loan or anything that's a 4-unit because a 4 unit's probably going to run you a good chunk of change. You know, even in cheap areas, a 4 unit's still probably going to be like 2 to 300,000 is what I would guess. Maybe it's lower. And you can't use the mortgage payment, or I'm sorry, the future rent payments to offset the entire mortgage payment. So I think you're going to run into some issues there. So I would first maybe look at doing something. I would try to start 1 unit too. Also, with a $20,000 salary, I would be a little bit concerned with like if you have repairs that need to be made, then it might be difficult to make those repairs with that salary, unless you have some savings saved up for those contingencies. Richard, you said, I've been at the same job for 5 years. My partner has been at his job for 1 year and had an employment gap of 1.5 years before then. Will this prevent us from getting an FHA mortgage together? So it depends what the employment gap was for. It needs to be documented. Most likely it shouldn't be an issue since he's been at his job for a year already. So normally when you have a gap of 6 months or more, then you want to see somebody back on a job for about a year. So I don't think you're going to run into huge issues, but the lender will absolutely want to get documentation for like what the employment gap was for there, and then you should be okay. Andy, you said it got approved for a max $380,000 with USDA with an interest rate of 2.375. Did I do good? I think that's a great interest rate. I mean, that's super low. I don't anticipate that you would get something that's much lower than that. So one of my credit scores is high, 780, but the lender used the lower one, which is 670. So lenders will, all lenders across the nation will use the median score, so the middle score. So most likely the 670 is your middle score, and 780 is maybe one of the high ones. And you also have a lower one than 670. So 670 is the median one, and all lenders across the nation will use that same one. And I am, okay. So I'm going to hop off here in 6 minutes because I am doing my best to keep these to an hour. So I'm going to like speed through some of these questions here. Okay. Income qualifications for USDA loan. What would happen if a family friend were to move in after locking in a USDA loan? As long as it's closed, doesn't matter what your income is, it doesn't get checked anymore. And you don't have to report it or anything like that. Christopher, I have 20% for a down payment and funds set aside for closing costs. If something surprising comes up, increasing closing costs, are there ways to avoid touching the money set aside for the down payment? You would just need to get those funds somewhere else for those closing costs. Marissa, what are some considerations in getting approved for a mortgage while planning to relocate to a new city and finding new employment? You used to be able to get a loan purely based off of an employment letter. Like you could close a loan with an employment offer letter. With COVID, it's just not happening right now. So you'll actually need to have a job. You'll need to have that employment. You'll need to have at least 2 weeks of pay stubs and have no contingencies in your employment offer. Then you can close on that loan. So that's kind of the frustrating thing with what's going on here with COVID. Will it hurt me when applying for a USDA loan if I have money in savings? Do I need to spend some of it before I apply? USDA just wants to make sure that you don't have 20% down. If you have the ability to do 20% down, then you're probably not going to get approved for USDA. So as long as you have that, great. I'm not going to advise you on moving savings or hiding things from USDA because I think I can get in trouble for that. So I'm not going to advise you on that. But USDA normally is only for people who can't do 20% down on a loan. Aubrey, I have an online bank. Will that hurt when the time comes for needing to get cashier's check for down payment closing costs? No. Well, maybe. So first check with your online bank if you can get a cashier's check and how early in advance you need to get that. Because normally an online bank can do it, but they sometimes need a little bit more time to make that happen. Now, you can always wire the funds. You don't have to do a cashier's check. You can wire the funds to the title company. That's a lot easier, and in my opinion, more effective. But if you're going to do a cashier's check, then check with your bank first. Will Crowley. What's up, Kyle? Best advice for new LO? What would be a good advice? I hate saying this because it costs money, but there are two services that I think are super helpful for loan officers. At least they've been really helpful for me. One is MBS Highway. That teaches you so much about the mortgage market and how everything works in the mortgage world that you're just not going to learn really anywhere else. And then Mortgage Coach. Mortgage Coach helps you display and compare different loan offers so that you can help your clients make better choices. So you can like literally put 4 loans up on a screen, and then it will show you what's the cheapest loan in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And it makes it really easy to see what's the best loan option. And it's helped me save clients tons of money by helping them make the right choice. And MBS Highway also has a tool that does this. In my opinion, it's a little bit more difficult to use, but MBS Highway does this cool thing where they help you look at debt consolidation with clients. So for instance, I talked with a couple who was moving from Colorado to Ohio, and they were going to put 20% down on a home, but they had, I think, about $20,000 to $30,000 in debt. This was a while ago, so I'm trying to remember exactly. And what I suggested to them was, instead of doing the 20% down on the new home, if you do 5% down and use the rest to pay off your debt, that's going to be more beneficial for you. And MBS Highway has this really cool calculator that you can go click off the debts, and it actually showed that over a period of 30 years, their net worth increase is going to be $144,000 beneficial over having that 20% down payment. So just to reiterate, doing 5% down and paying off debt is $144,000 more in savings than doing 20% down and not paying off debt. So they have some really cool calculators. So I would definitely look into that. And then another thing I would look into doing is I obviously do video a lot, but I've done tons of like one-on-one videos. In the past year, I've recorded about 1,000 personal one-on-one videos. And what I do is I started reviewing the loan estimate with people and loan offers. So whenever I would send a loan estimate, I'd put the loan estimate on screen and you'd see my face there too. And I'd walk through it line by line so people can go look on their phone and watch me talk through the loan estimate with them. And that's been super helpful and helps people through the process a lot more. So hope that helps. David, what's my favorite kind of tea? Right now, I've been loving this tea from Rishi called Moonlight Jasmine. And is that what we did on the unboxing? I did a tea ASMR unboxing. I can't remember. What tea did we do? Yeah, it was the Moonlight Jasmine, I think. Such a dumb thing. L Brown, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You asked how do I send some tea your way. Well, that will definitely pay for some tea, and I appreciate it. I want to see if I miss any questions. How much should I expect to pay per month on a $180,000 home in Connecticut? $799 credit score, planning to put about 25% down. 180,000, 25% down. Let me put this in a calculator real quick. I can't do that in my head. Principal and interest, you're probably looking at about $570 a month. And then you have taxes, insurance, and all that stuff on top of it. Linda, you said the video was hilarious. So I'm glad you liked it. It was fun to make. It was pretty funny, and awkward. It's awkward to be whispering for that long, but cool. Well, thank you all for joining, and sitting through my inability to speak tonight for some reason. But you all have a wonderful time. Take some time tonight or sometime this week to just detox a little bit. Maybe that just means getting away from screens or getting away from news. Take a moment to just take a walk through the park, spend some time with your family, enjoy some tea on a nice brisk morning. Do something that helps you get away from all of the noise. That's going to be really beneficial. We have to have some of this downtime, some of this white noise to be able to function. We can't always be receiving things coming in and all this stress and trying to maintain some sort of normalcy and coherence while having that. Okay, so do yourself a favor and do us all a favor of spending some time to relax. We need you at your best. That's when you're most joyful. That's when you make the most impact in the world. If you're stressed all the time, then you can't be who we need you to be. Okay, so you all have a lovely night. I will see you next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and I'll talk to you soon.